Morning, Harvey.
Good morning. How are you?
All right, so far.
Yeah. What excuse today is. Here we go.
The exterminator didn't have us on the list. Did he call you yesterday?
No.
He said he would have called the day before. I know it's marked on the calendar. He's sending somebody shortly.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him.
I just spoke to him.
Who did you speak to?
Whatever his name is. Marty, I guess. That's my phone.
Morning, Marvin.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
How you
Good
doing,
morning,
Bob?
How you doing?
How's Lee doing?
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, send our regards.
I shall. And how is Paula doing?
Thank God, thank God.
Getting better? Yes?
Yeah,
Referral?
yeah, she's a little bit of progress every day with God's help.
No, that's the only way to be. Little step at a time, as they say.
That's right, okay.
What took so long today, guys?
Actually, we were very quick. That's what happens when you have too much time. You get delayed with other things, but is that our leader?
No, that's
No, not the Maggid Shir yet, okay.
no, he didn't. No way he is.
Far from it.
No, here he is. Here he is.
Okay, good.
There he is. There we go.
Almost. Not yet.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. Had a little technical issue there, but we got through that. Okay, I'm going to start off with our sponsors and then we'll get into our Gemara. A year of learning, Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Ruvain ben Labush, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nisan Hara, Nisan ben Fardosa, Paul and Bob Broberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael, Malka Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust, Rav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Rav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Rav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, Cheryl Scher and children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Arav Akiva, Marcia Federbush, and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel ben Rav Shimon. A Month of Learning by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi, and his father, Meir ben Yaakov, by Gila and the Harold Saltzman, in memory of her mother, Eti Bat Yitzchak Elchanan. A Week of Learning by Esther Slashowski, in memory of her son, Gershon Benyamin ben Harav Avraham, and Radola Klar, in memory of her husband, Mordechai ben Tzvi Zev. Today is the 10th, and we have no other days of learning on for this specific date. Therefore, may Neshamas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Vati Yashir, Shema Talia, and L'chol B'nai Israel, Good Gaben Shtiar.
Okay.
All right. We are going to get underway. I just want to pick up very briefly from the bottom of Tzadi Bet Amud Beis. Okay. So we saw that a number of challenges have been raised to Abaye. Okay. There in terms of saying that the establishment of partitions are going to cause a prohibition. And the most recent one we saw on the bottom of Tzadi Bet Amud Beis was Amarle Rabbis, is Rabbi to Abai, V'lo matzina mechitza isur. Okay, haven't we seen, in other words, really he's saying, haven't we seen other situations, other occasions where the establishment of a partition has resulted in a prohibition? And that's where we see a number of examples being brought. Okay, so we pick up Vaha Itmar, wasn't it said, in the following case, okay, a situation where Sichach al Gabe Achsadra, okay, where they put some sort of covering, okay, over a pavilion, okay, and this pavilion has doorposts, okay? All right, so in other words, the doorposts are on the outside, okay, of this pavilion, and therefore, by doing so, okay, we would say that this is kasher, kshera. Okay, ve'ilu hishveh p'tzima psula. But if they had evened out the doorposts, in other words, if they had put the doorposts on the inside, okay, of this, let's call it the pavilion, right? And that's what the diagrams on 93A1, opposite 1 and 2, okay, are trying to show us, although at least in my book, it's hard to tell the difference between the two diagrams, really, okay? Unless you look at the back part, okay? If you put if you even them out, okay, then it is psula. It is not a valid sukkah. So Abaye then challenges us with a response. Amale Abaye l'didik shera. According to my view, it would still be a valid sukkah, even with the doorposts evened out. The didach, according to you, siluk mechitzoti. That's simply an example of removing partitions. That's not a case of putting in a partition, which then results in a prohibition. Okay? Now, we're going to get another attempt, okay, to see another challenge to Abaye's view. Amale Rabba bar Rav Chanan la Abaye, okay? V'lo matzino mechitza le'isur. Okay, you're saying we don't have other examples where the establishment of partitions results in some kind of a prohibition. Vahatanya, he says, aren't we taught in another Braita? Okay, and this is in regards to, Kalei HaKeren. Okay, the following. Bayit shechetzio mikora, v'chetzio eino mikora. Okay, a look at the diagram opposite note 5. Okay, it's not the best example. I think the one in Koran is actually better, but we have an area where half the area is covered over with some sort of ceiling and half the area is not. That's the important part of that diagram. Okay, so certain crops are grown under the covered or ceilinged section. Okay, can we put other crops in the other section? Okay, if we're going to hold, okay, that partitions go straight down, that may be one thing. Let's see. So the Gemara then comes back. It says, Bayit shechetzio mikora, v'chetzio eino mikora, house where half, okay, the roof is covered, okay, and half is not. Gifanim kan, okay, if you plant, vineyards in one section where it's covered, and that's what our art scroll picture is supposed to be showing us. Mutar lizroa kan, then it would be permitted to plant other items in the other half of that area, right? Ve'ilu hishve et hakroyav asur. Okay, but if we again had evened out the beams, in other words, we would had covered over the entire area, then it would be a single roof. Then the entire area would be all one area, right? And you cannot plant other things that close to those vineyards, right? Asur, okay? That would be prohibited then. Amarle, Abaye attempts to answer. Hatam siluk mechitzotu. He again argues, no, that's an example of removing a partition. That's not an example of putting down a new partition. Now, another attempt to challenge Abaye. Okay, one comes again, following. Shalach le Rava la Abaye biad Rav Shemaya bar Zeira. That Rava sent another colleague, okay, namely Rav Shemaya bar Zeira, to Abaye with the following challenge. V'lo matzinu mechitza le'isur. Again, you say that we don't find other examples where a partition causes a prohibition. V'hatanya. But don't we have a braita again, right? Yesh b'mechitzot hakerem lahakel ulahachmer. Says we have situations, right, where both, okay, we can have a leniency or a stringency in regards to the situation of a partition, particularly when we're talking about klaye kerem, vineyards. Okay, so the Gemara asks, Keitzad, how is that possible? And he's going to give now the following explanation. Kerem hanatui ad ikar mechitza. If you have a vineyard that is planted up to the edge of the partition, okay, zorea meikar mechitza ve'elech, then from the edge of that partition on the other side, it is permitted to plant, okay, further on. She'ilu ein sham mechitza. Because if there were no partition there, right, marchik dalet amot v'zoreya, then they would have to make a gap, I'm going to call it, from the vineyard, okay, up to dalet amos, and then they could start planting, okay? So you'd have less room then, right, to plant other things. But with the partition, he's arguing, you have more room to plant opposite that vineyard. Okay, because continuing, she'ilu ein sham mechitza, marchik dalet amot v'zoreya. Okay, because then without that partition, one would have to distance dalet amos, 4 amos, and then plant. Okay, v'zehu mechitzot hakerem lahakel. And that would be an example, he says, of where having a partition results vis-a-vis the vineyard in a kula, in a leniency. Here, Keitzad. So the Gemara then says, what about the opposite? Okay, stringency, on what basis? Well, he gives another example. Hayama shuch min hakotel, Yud Aleph Amah. Okay, let's assume, he says, okay, that we remove the vineyard 11 amos from the wall. Okay, in this case, Lo yavi zera l'sham. Okay, one can't put, right, any other seed, any other produce, okay, between the vineyard and the wall. Okay. She'ilmalei ein mechitzot hakerem lahachmir. I'm sorry. She'ilmalei ein mechitza were not that there be no partition there, marchik daled amot v'zorea, okay, that if there were no partition there, then he could have simply made a gap of 4 amos and then seeded v'zohi mechitzot hakerem lahachmir. And that would be an example of where a partition, okay, for this vineyard comes to bring astringency. Now, again, Abaye tries to clarify and refute this challenge.
Rabbi Green?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Just one question. If you take a look at the diagram in 5, does that imaginary partition or that virtual partition, whatever you want to call it, have any effect on the distance, on lowering the distance that you can plant or not?
Okay, look at it has a dotted line, right?
Right.
So it's as if that partition goes down, just like, okay, we talked about walls going down,
Right.
good, right?
So that's treated as an actual wall?
So that's treated as an actual wall, right? And therefore, that's why you could start planting other things just on the other side of
right
that.
up to the line you can go. Okay.
Okay? But if the partition wasn't there, that was what the first argument was, there would have to be a gap of 4 amos, okay,
Right.
between the last row of the vines and where you could first start planting, seeding anything else.
Right. Got it. Okay.
Okay? All right. Good. Thank you for asking the question. That helps clarify now the flip side, okay, as well. Because what they're saying is if you had only a certain amount of space left, okay, then, okay, that's what he's saying. That if you had Imale Ein Mechitzef, there was no partition there, okay, normally all you would have needed is that gap of 4 amos, okay? But in this case, he said if you planted most of that space with the vineyard, you could not plant any other produce, any other seeds whatsoever. And that would be astringency. Okay. So Abaye then trying to negate that challenge, Amale, Ulata Amayich, he says, and according to that line of reasoning, okay, you would seem to think that Klai Kerem then is going to refute my argument. Okay, Ot van mimat nitin. He says, I'm going to sort of answer you from our Mishnah itself. Okay, Ditznan is taught in the Mishnah, Karachat HaKerem. Okay, when we're talking about clearing the vineyard, Beit Shammai Omrim Kaf Daled Amot. Beit Shammai says we need 24 amos. Beit Hillel Omrim Ted Zayin Amah. And Beit Hillel disagrees and says we need less, right? Only what, 17? Okay. Mechol HaKerem, when it comes to the perimeter of the vineyard. In other words, leaving space around the outside of the vineyard so that the wagon can go to do the, whatever it is, you know, the trimming and the collecting and grape picking, whatever, things like that. Okay, right. Beit Shammai Omrim Ted Zayin Amah. Beit Shammai says they need, again, Ted Zayin Amah, 17. Okay, Beit Hillel Omrim Yud Bet Amah. And Beit Hillel says 12 Amah. Okay, so then he's going to continue. Okay, and you can see on 9382 pictures of what's clearing the vineyard, okay, and what's the perimeter of the vineyard, okay, in that case, right? So what happens? Ve'ezohi karachat kerem. What do we mean then by the clearing of the vineyard, right? Kerem shecharav Amsayata. All right, Amsiato. It's a vineyard where it's all planted at the vines on the outside, and you've got right almost very small seed land in the middle. Im ein sham tet zayin ama, lo yavi zera l'sham. If he doesn't have at least 17 amma, okay, you can't put any seeds there. Hayusham tet zayin amma. If you do have 17 or 16, I'm sorry, okay, right? Notain lo kadei avodato. You still have to allow for a space large enough to go around. Vizorea et hamutar. Okay, and then you're able to just plant seeds for the rest. Okay, that's the point. So you've reduced the space. Ezohi mechol hakerem. So what do we mean by the issue of the perimeter of the vineyard? Bein hakerem legader. Okay, that's got to be the area between the wall and let's say the vineyard. Okay, but the vineyard there has got to be in the middle, and then you still need to have, okay, a certain amount of space viable, which is the Dalit Amos. Okay, and then only then could you put your vineyard, okay, or your other produce, let's say. And even then, you'd still need an additional Dalit Amos on the flip side of those produce to work that area. Okay, and that's what that other diagram next to under 18, note 18, shows us. Okay. She'im ein sham yud bet amma, because if you don't have 12 amma, okay, in that case, because you got to have, okay, the area of the land plus the area for work, right? That's where we get the 12, 8 and 4, right? Lo yavi zera l'sham. Then again, you cannot plant there whatsoever. Hayu sham yud bet amma. But if there is at least the 12 amma there, notain lo kadei avodato. Not only do you give him the amount of space he needs to do his work, v'zorea et hamutar, and then you can plant other produce in what's left over. Okay. Elahatam lav hainu tama. So he says, don't we have then the reason? The kol dalid amot legabe kerem avodata kerem. Okay, that every 4 amos is necessary for the working of the vineyard area. Legabe gader. Okay, and also in regards to the fence, right, the wall. Kevan de lo mizdaran. Okay, since one did not seed it, okay, it's not, right, close to the wall. It's not suitable for seeding because okay, for any number of reasons, either you didn't leave the workspace or seeding might undermine the wall itself, right? Afkure mafker laho. Are you going to say then that that area has got to be hefker? It's got to be treated like ownerless, okay? Right? The bene iika arba chashivan. Because in either case, if you've got the 4 amos, we can consider it a significant area, okay? A significant amount of space. But the question is it usable for planting or not? Okay? Ve'ilo lo chashivan. And if not, he says, then it's not significant. Okay? And therefore, if it's not significant enough, okay, to allow both for planting and for workspace, it can't be used. Amar Rav Yehuda. Okay? And now we're going to get to a new item. Okay? A new example, a new topic, really. Okay? In this case, we have now Rav Yehuda telling us, Shalosh karpifiot ze b'tzad ze. Let's assume we have 3 empty lots, one next to each other. Okay? And the question is, these lots are not all of equal size. Okay? We have the option that the middle lot is longer and the 2 side lots are smaller. Okay? Or we have the opposite option, that the middle lot is smaller and the 2 outer lots are larger. Okay? So let's see what happens. Right? Shalosh karpifiot, ze b'tzad ze. Okay? And what happens, says Rabbi Yehuda? Ushnayim hachitzonim, the 2 outer lots, right? Megufafin, they are extended. V'ha'emtzai eino megufaf, and the middle one is not extended. Okay? So in other words, think of them as being fenced off in some way. Okay? V'yachid bazeh, v'yachid bazeh. Okay? Right? And what happens? We have one person in one karpaf and one person in another. Okay? Which, right? Okay, so what happens? So the implication is you have a total of 3 people, one in each of these 3 empty lots. Okay? What happens? Says now the Gemara continues. Ne'aseh k'shayara, do we therefore consider that when there are 3 people, they are like a caravan? Okay? In other words, they're not limited in their space. Okay? And therefore, what happens? V'notnin lahen kol tzorkan, and we give them all the space that we need. In other words, they can, as if inhabit, carry, do anything in the entire space of that karpaf. Okay? So what happens? Vadai, okay? On the other hand, says the Gemara, okay, what happens, right, is the following. Okay, just, right, so kol tzarkan vadai, okay, emtsa'i megufaf. Now let's flip it and say the following. The middle one is fenced in, okay, is the extended. Ushnayim hachitzonim einam megufafim. And the other 2, the outer 2 empty lots, are not extended. They're not fenced in. V'yachid bazeh, v'yachid bazeh, v'yachid bazeh. And again, we have one person in each. Okay? So the diagrams are 93A3. Okay, opposite note 19 or opposite note 21. Sort of try to give us some picture, okay, of that, right? Ein notnin lahem ela beit sheish. We don't give them, okay, anything more than 6 base seah.
I don't know.
Okay? In other words, each person gets 2 base seah in their karpaf and no more area. The Gemara then says, Ibayalahu. So they questioned about this situation. Okay? Echad bazeh ve'echad bazeh. Okay, what about a situation where we have one in one karpaf, one in another karpaf, ushnayim be'emtsa'i, and 2 in the middle? Okay? Are we going to say that those 2 in the middle, okay, just looking at that diagram, let's say opposite note 21, okay, do we consider it like one large space? And so therefore we get 2 plus 1 is 3, and therefore that's like a shayara, and therefore they get to carry and utilize the entire Karpov, all three of them as a single unit, or not. Okay? So what happens? Ilahacha nafke tlat havu. If we're seeing, okay, that in this situation, that they go out, let's say, towards one, okay, of the outer Karpov, right? And therefore you're going to have three. V'ilahache nafke tlat havu. Or if they go out the other Karpov, to the other direction, you're going to have three. Okay, and therefore we could argue, as a result, three is a Taira that says they get all the space that they need. Or perhaps Dilma chad lahacha nafik, v'chad lahafa nafik. Or perhaps from those two people that are in the middle Karpov, one goes out, let's say, to the eastern Karpov, and one goes out to the western Karpov. So now you're going to have 2 and 2. Okay? So what? Right? So the Gemara says, continues, right? Ve'im timsel omar chad lahacha nafik v'chad lahacha nafik nayim bazeh u'shnayim bazeh. Just as we said, you'd then round up with 2 in each of the outside Karpovs, right? Echad be'emtza'i mahu, and one in the middle. What's the situation? So the Gemara says, Hacha vadai. Okay, here it's clear. Ila hacha nafik tzlata havu. If they went out and one, you'd have 3. Ve'ila hacha nafik tzlata havu. And here the other one, you would have 3. Again, Amar, I might say, lahacha nafik. That here instead, the middle one, he went out to one, and the other person from the middle went out the other. Ve'ema lahacha nafik, and the other went out, okay, to the other one. So what happens? V'hilchata ba'ayin l'kula. And we rule leniently, okay, in each case. Okay, why is that? Why do we rule leniently? Because again, okay, the Karpovs are considered an area that, since we have this general principle of Eruv and Bituf, we rule leniently, we can apply that here too. Now, Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda is going to bring us to a new topic as we go over to the next Amud. Now, this new topic is not so totally new to us because we've seen a previous Mishnah that said what happens if you have 2 courtyards next to each other, but they're not on the same level. Okay? That one is lower than the other. The previous Mishnah said, well, that wall is 10 tfachim. Okay? Very clear. Okay? On the one side, on the lower courtyard, it's clearly 10 tfachim tall. Okay? So they certainly can't do an Eruv with the guys on the other side. But the higher level courtyard, maybe they only have 5 tfachim of the wall visible. Okay? That's maybe a different story. Okay? So we're going to get now a sort of a spin-off, I'm going to call it, of that example. Okay? And what's the spin-off? We have, again, 2 courtyards. They are different heights. One is lower than the other. But the reason they are different is because we have some sort of an embankment or an elevation that's from the ground for 5. Then we have a wall that's 5. So we still have a height of 10 tfachim between the two courtyards, but it's not all a single wall. Part of it is earth and part of it is wall. So what happens, says the Gemara? All right, the following, right? Hidud chamisha umechitza chamisha. Here we have a embankment, let's call it an elevation, okay, that is 5 tfachim tall, and we have then a partition wall that's 5 tfachim tall. Ein mitztarfin. They do not join. In other words, ad sheyehe o kulo begidud o kulo b'mechitza. In other words, they're not considered a single partition unless they're made from the same item. Okay? They're all embankment, they're all wall. However, now we're being challenged, right? We're going to see Rav Chisda state. Shtei chatzerot, zo lamala mizo. Take the example of two courtyards, one above the other. This was the Mishnah we saw previously. Okay? And it's diagram B. Okay? On 93B1. So the original statement of Rav Chisda was diagram A. Now we're talking diagram B. Okay? Here's the challenge. Right? Shtei chatzerot zo lamala mizo. Ve'elyona gvoa min hatachtona 10 tfachim. And the upper courtyard is 10 tfachim higher. O sheyesh ba gidud chamisha umechitza chamisha. Or it has an embankment, okay, of 5 tfachim and a partition of 5, which is exactly what the Rav Chisda was referring to. Ma'arvin shnayim, ve'en ma'arvin echad. They must join in 2 separate eruvei chatzerot, and they can't join in a single one. If it's less than that, ma'arvin echad, ve'en ma'arvin shnayim. So if it's less than the 10 tfachim, says the Braita, we can join in a single eruv, the 2 courtyards, and they don't have to join in 2 separate ones. Okay? Which directly contradicts what Rav Chisda said. Excuse me. Now, Amar Rav, says Rav, Moder Rav Chisda b'tachtona. Rav Chisda might agree then in terms of the lower courtyard. Il v'ro'eh pnei asara. Because when they look at the partition, it's both embankment and wall, and therefore it does reach 10 tfachim. Ihachi tachtona teorev shnayim. If that's the case, then the lower courtyard, okay, indeed has to have, I'm not going to translate it to eruvin, but they must join it, resulting in 2 separate eruvim, one for the lower and one for the upper. Velo teorev echad, and they cannot join in a single eruv. Okay, in other words, they must have an independent eruv, the lower chatzer. Eliona, the upper courtyard, lo teorev, lo echad, velo shnayim. And the upper courtyard cannot join in a single eruv and not in 2. Okay? In other words, what we're saying there, okay, is that, okay, this, they can't join on an eruv on their own, okay, because since it's only 5, okay, tfachim of wall that's there, it's not considered, it's considered a breach, okay, right? And therefore they can't join with the low one, okay? right? And the other one, and the lower one can't join because it's separated by a full wall of 10 tvachim. Okay? So that's the problem there. Amar Rabba Bar Ola says, Kegon Shahaita Elyona Megufefet Ad Eser Amot. He says that's similar to a situation where the upper courtyard, okay, is considered partitions, okay, around it, where maybe that just one side is only 5 amma, but the other walls surrounding that courtyard are all 10, 10 tfachim high. So again, that would make that 5 tfachim wall on top of the embankment, again, more like a petach than a true wall, a true partition. Okay? So in that case, right, the upper, he says, could make its own eruv, but they can't make one with the lower because that's considered a petach from the lower courtyard to the upper courtyard. Now, ihachi, if that's the case, ema seifa, he says, I would look at the end of the front. Said pachot mikan, if it's less than that here, right? Ma'arvin echad ve'en ma'arvin shnayim, that then they can join in a single eruv, and they don't have to join in 2 separate eruv. The Gemara then says, Ibaye chad ta'arev, Ibaye trei ta'arev. If they want, let them do then 1 eruv. If they want, let them do 2 eruv. Rabba, Berei the Rabba, says Rabba, the son of Rabba, Kegon shenifratza hatachtona bimlo'a la'elyona. Somewhat similar to a situation where the lower courtyard has been completely breached into the upper courtyard. Okay. If that's the case, Ihachi, if that's the case, lower courtyard, Chad Ta'erev. They can do 1 eruv, Trei lo ta'arev. 2, okay? They can't do 2 separate eruv. Elyona, the upper courtyard, Ibaye Trei ta'arev. If they want, they can have 2 separate eruvim. Ibaye Chad ta'arev. If they want, they could do a single eruv with the lower courtyard. Now the Gemara then responds, Ein hachinami. Indeed, that seems to be the case. Katani pachot mikan ma'arvin echad. When it says less than that, they can make 1. Ve'en ma'arvin shnayim, and they don't make 2. Atachtona, then that must be referring simply to the lower courtyard. Now, going on, Darash Merimar. Merimar now. Okay, here's another view. And Idud Chamisha Umechitza Chamisha. If you have the embankment, that's 5 tfachim, and the wall is 5 tfachim, it's tarfin. Okay, they do join, they do combine to make a 10 tefach partition. Now, Ashkachei Ravina, the Rav Acha, Berei the Rabba. It happened, says that Ravina met Rav Acha, okay, the son of Rava, Amarle, and he said to them, Hane Mar Mide b'mechitza. Did the master teach anything in regards to this partition? Amarle lo. He said no. he said nothing was taught in regards. Hilchata gidud chamisha umechitza chamisha mitztarfi. And the law then is, okay, that if the embankment is 5 tefachim and the wall is 5 tefachim, they do join together to be considered a single partition. Now, let's go on. Okay. We're going to get again to another new topic. Okay. Remember, we talked about in the past, okay, that if people were to come, if a group did a Erev Chatzerut, okay, and now additional people come on Shabbat to that courtyard, does that prohibit those who were initially in the Eruv from carrying in the courtyard or not? He clearly said initially that maybe it was more of a concern if it was a non-Jew, because the non-Jew might come back if he owned an apartment in that courtyard on Shabbat, but Jews generally would not. Let's keep that discussion in mind as we now get to this new Indian. By Rav Oshaya. Rav Oshaya raised the following question. Okay? Yurim, okay, inhabitants, Habain b'Shabbat, Mahu. What happens if new residents arrive on Shabbos? Do they prohibit the carrying in that courtyard? Ya'asru, will they prohibit? Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, Tashma. Listen to the following. Chatzar Gedola, Shnifratza L'Ktana, a large courtyard that has been reached into a smaller courtyard. Hagdola Muteret V'Haktana Asura. It's permitted to carry in the larger courtyard, but in the smaller courtyard it is prohibited. Shehi Kepitcha Shel Gedola. We consider the smaller courtyard like an opening into the entrance into the larger one. Amar Rabba, says Rabba. Amar, okay, says Rabba, I can say the following. Maybe it was breached still on Friday. Okay. Amar le Abai. Abai then responds, Lo temamar emar. Don't say, I can say. Vadai mi ba'od yom nifritza. But rather, clearly,
Definitely.
it was breached on Friday. Amar huda amar. Because it was the master himself who said, I minemi Rav Huna. That one asked a question of Rav Huna, the following. Ubai minemi Rav Yehuda. And one asked also from Rav Yehuda a question. Yirev derech hapetach, v'nistam hapetach. One made an eruv by means of an opening between two courtyards, and then that opening got closed up. Yirev derech chalon, v'nistam chalon. Or one made an eruv between the two courtyards by use of a, let's say, a window, right? Okay, in this case, somehow the chalom nistam b'chalom, and the window got sealed. Mahu, what's the status? Va'amarli, and he told me, Shabbat, kevan shehutra hutra. Once the Shabbat started, and it was initially permitted, therefore we say
The status remains the
be
same.
permitted. Itmar, okay, as was said, okay, the following. Kotel shabein shtei chatzerot shenafal. The example we say of a wall that was between two courtyards, okay, We fell down. Rav Amar Ein Metaltalin Bo Ella Bedalid Amot. Rav felt that one should not carry in that courtyard more than 4 amos. Shmuel Amar, let's roll over a little bit. Shmuel says, Zeh metaltel ad ikar mechitza, v'zeh metaltel ad ikar mechitza. This one carries up to the edge or the base of the partition, okay, of one courtyard, and the other carries up to the base. Okay, and that's where we're going to stop today. And tomorrow, okay, we'll pick up this discussion, okay, on this situation. Okay? And then we go on to a new Mishnah as well. Okay? So everybody have a good day. Take care. Stay well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
So long.
Have a good day.
Okay.
All right.